Welcome into the John Cast podcast. Thanks for listening. It's time for the Kelly Sheffield show with the Badgers head coach, Kelly Sheffield. How's it going, Coach?
Great morning, great afternoon, wherever we're at. Hi.
Yeah. Hey. So I guess we'll start with 0-3 right off the bat. But your message is the sky isn't falling. You said that on the post-game show after Stanford. What is the message to the team after an 0-3 start?
I don't want to sound like Aaron Rodgers with the spelling out the word relax, but it's what are we trying to do here? You know, there's a little bit of perspective of where do we want to be by the end of the year, and how do we grow into that? And we've been a part of, there's a lot of meat on the bone there to get better, is one of the things I will say. You know, we played 3 matches against teams ranked in the top 6. Pretty challenging schedule out of the gate. We've out-hit 2 of our 3 opponents and still have lost those matches. Those are things that are it doesn't happen very much. We've lost 3 sets where we've out-hit our opponents. That's kind of a little bit unusual. We're 1-5 in sets decided by 3 points or less. So we've got to close sets off a little bit better than what we have. Health has been an issue for us. Some kind of random things that have kind of made training difficult, and so for some of our players and some of our connections, it has been a learn as we go, fix it as we're playing against elite competition. That makes it a little bit more challenging. Certainly, we're not the only team that is in that space, but that is a reality for us. And there's a lot of areas that we can be a lot better at. We are hitting the same in 3 options as what we did last year against our entire schedule last year versus our 3 elite teams, so that we're hitting at a very, very high clip in 3 option scenarios. We've got to be better in transition, much better in transition, much better in medium pass situations, and those will be areas of focus kind of coming forward.
Now, you touched on a couple of things that I want to ask you about. We'll get to that, but also just, I think it's a reminder to fans too that volleyball is volleyball, and upsets and things like that occur. I mean, you just look at Nebraska lost to SMU in 3 sets. I'm not sure too many people predicted that. I know Louisville, a team that you just played, lost in 3 sets as well recently. So not only is the level of competition there, but I mean, there are a lot of good teams in volleyball, and a lot of good teams like Nebraska and Louisville lose early in the season too.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's winning is hard. I think Carter was talking about that at the press conference afterwards. It's just it's hard, and sometimes when you're winning a lot, it can be it's not our God-given right to win, and you've got to play well. You've got to play better than your opponents, and we've been right there. In a lot of sets, we've been a part of some really, really high level sets, and then there's been some sets where we've not been good at all, and we've given our opponents they've been in charge of the rallies, and that's one of our discussions today is the number of what I would call empty swings that I'm not sure what we're trying to do or what our plan is. And a 3/4 swing to the middle back is probably not going to be something that is going to bear a lot of fruit for us, but it's certainly going to give our opponents the ability of transitioning with all of their options coming back at us. So we've got to be a little bit better, not a little bit. We've got to be quite a bit better, more consistently in the areas of the court that we're attacking. But honestly, that kind of happens with more sixes in our practice gym, because if not, then it all happens with just video from the matches that you just played. And we've got a really fast turnaround coming here. I mean, yesterday was a day off, for us, so there wasn't a lot of training there. Today's first day of classes, so it'll be pretty short in the gym, as they've got some other things that are kind of going on. Tomorrow will be a travel day, and we'll play back-to-back days and then get back here. And our season opener is just a couple days after that. And so there's not a lot of training opportunities right now. We're figuring some of this stuff out on the fly and watching film in hotel ballroom suites or planes. And then we'll get some stretches of being able to get in there, hopefully, if we're healthy, be able to stack practice days on top of practice days, and which I think our team will need. A reminder that we've got a freshman outside hitter, a freshman setter, a freshman DS, and essentially a freshman Labero who's playing half the time. And so, although we've got some really experienced players, volleyball is a connectivity sport, where everybody's kind of playing off of each other. One of the things that I kind of think about was the end of set one against Stanford, and a ball's kind of up in the air, and you've got Trinity and Sage crashing into each other on who's sending the free ball over, and we get called for a double. Well, those things don't happen a month from now. Well, they shouldn't happen a month from now. But kind of that hierarchy of who's taking what balls, and balls that are in the seams, and things that are happening fast, and what tempo we're running in transition with the setter and the hitter. Those things in our sport get worked out with time. And so, when you're asking how big the concern is, there's not a big concern. Nobody likes losing. Certainly the record is not something that we're pleased with, but it's not something that we're heavily concerned about. It's just, let's get to work. And that process is actually fun.
Mm-hmm. You talked about empty swings, and it seems to me that the deeper the season goes and the more that you have that film study, empty swings become less. Am I correct in this thinking? Because there's more of a plan, for lack of a better way to describe that like, this is where we should go with this, as opposed to not really having film. Am I looking at empty swings?
I mean, it's a lot of things. It's mindset is part of it, right? Okay. Part of the scouting, I mean, we gave, I mean, you were there, you were traveling with us. The amount of information that we gave on our opponents is about that. We gave almost nothing because we didn't have a whole lot of what their current team was. So you're almost going in a little bit blindfolded. Not just us, our opponents were kind of in the same situation. After our Louisville match, I mean, Texas and Stanford had certainly some information on us that we didn't necessarily have on at least our first match, but you're typically, as a coach, just not giving a ton of information to your teams early on. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that to say that we were at a disadvantage over them. I would guess that they were doing the exact same thing with their teams. But things like, where are you putting a ball when you don't have a kill? Those will be things that are added into a scouting report that our players just don't have right now. Mm-hmm. And so there's an element of mindset. There's an element of reading the game that they've got to be better at. And then there's an element of us training and giving information that will just naturally happen as we're moving forward. Mm-hmm. Now, it seems and those are the reasons why you don't panic. Right. I mean, those are just because you've got perspective of how we move teams forward, and and how, our injury situations shouldn't be permanent, and how we're going to develop our team and players. There's kind of a plan in that, and our players are hungry. They're driven. They're rightfully ticked off.
Yeah. Right. Is there a sense of excitement there as well, knowing that there is still a lot of room for improvement, that you've tested yourself through 3 matches? I assume, I don't know, it feels like maybe that's something where you are excited to now work on everything that you've been able to see because of the level of competition.
There's excitement from me because that's, building teams. That's what I get really fired up about. And the team, the team wasn't excited after in the locker room. I mean, that was a pretty bitter place, and that they're not happy. And, and I'm, it's not my job to make them happy, but I'm trying to give them a little bit of perspective. And I think, what's the saying that leadership is giving others belief that tomorrow is going to be a better day, right? And so our leaders have to believe that, and they do, and then you just get to work. I think, Carter made a point that you'd almost be, when you're thinking about the longevity of a season, this part is just so critical about learning, especially before you get in the Big Ten. And, you would rather be 0-3 and being in some really close matches and learning a lot for the practice gym than 3-0 and not learning anything. Now there's some in between there, right? And certainly, there's opportunities of winning a match 2 or 3 that we probably have let go. But what I'm trying to state is the most critical thing right now is finding out about your team and getting in the gym and getting better. And that is, and there is a wealth of information there on things that we're doing well and things that should be giving us confidence and things that we've got to tweak and other things that we've got to get quite a bit better at. And that process excites me.
Yeah. So we did see Caroline Crawford get her first start of the season on Monday against Stanford at middle blocker, and didn't see Anna Smrek come on the court. How much more do you think the lineups may tweak and evolve? Obviously, I know you harvest the data and then you look at the data, but why the change on Monday? And do you see more of slight adjustments as we go on here?
Well, I would anticipate us kind of it being fluid throughout the year, right? I mean, it's one of the things we tell our players is it would be closed-minded of myself to lock into a lineup early and just be stubborn about that. It also would send a message to the others that, hey, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to get in. And I don't want our players feeling like, they have to accept their lot in life right now. I want them striving and working and growing and getting better and evolving. And if people are doing that, then it's always fluid. And there's also some players that I think can help us, even if they're not starting, being in some certain situations. And so I look at it as a positive more than anything, that this thing continues to evolve. And I would anticipate it unless players give me a reason for not doing that.
Okay. What were your thoughts on Fiserv Forum? I mean, we got to see a few matches there. The fans came out. What were your thoughts on that event? And second part of that question, seems almost like it's kind of like a bit of a practice run, perhaps, for down the road. Could Milwaukee get a Final Four?
Yeah, I was talking with Stanford's coach Kevin Hambley before our match on Monday, and he made a statement that the first part of our match with Texas, he thought that was the highest level of volleyball he had seen opening weekend. before. I mean, it was just, there was a lot of really good stuff. Texas just continued to keep it going. I mean, they gave us no room to breathe. Very few errors, very few hitting errors. The second part of that match, and they were digging a lot. They didn't give us a lot of service errors, and so we were having a difficult time transitioning. And they played a very, very clean match. I would say most of our match with Stanford was really high level. You can tell, that they had a few more service errors, as their philosophy is to just really, really go, and the amount of pressure that our players were under, some of those just sick and nasty serves. I was really, really pleased with the way that we've been passing the first three matches. The serving is just so different than what it was, a decade ago. Just extremely different than what it's ever been. The matches have to move a lot faster, John.
Yeah.
And you and I spoke about that. The amount of time between serves is too damn long. We're asking too much out of our fans to be there for essentially 7 or 8 hours, no matter how good the volleyball is. We have to do something about our replay. There's no reason why an in-out call should take 4.5 minutes. It's an in-out call. That should be done very quickly. Part of that was Fox's people that was, new to our sport, and the lingo of when the officials are talking to them. Hopefully we'll be able to move to a different replay system at some point. Hopefully that would certainly solve that. But there were some really good rallies, but we need to get to a serve clock. I'm convinced of that. The officials need to be in charge of it rather than the marketing people. You don't wait till music stops before blowing the whistle. You don't wait till the light show ends before you blow the whistle. You jump on it. You keep this thing moving. And, I shouldn't be looking over in the fourth set in a close match with Stanford and seeing somebody in the first row yawning. But that's certainly what I saw. And I think pace of play can help that. We've got to find a way where every set, our goal should be 25 minutes. And we can't expect more matches to be on Fox and NBC, and hopefully CBS joins the party at some point. And having sets, our first set against Texas went 50 minutes. You cannot have a set going 50 minutes. And maybe we do some things where we get rid of as many coaches' timeouts, and we have 2 technical timeouts, one at 8, one at 16, and those be as long as TV wants it, however long they want it to be able to sell the product. But then each team gets 1 coach's timeout, and that's 30 seconds. And so there's some things that we can do to shorten it up.
So to kind of follow up on that, you're saying the time between serves is too, I mean, Pete barely has 8 seconds to say anything, like what can you be a little bit more clear? I guess the time between serves.
So by the time people have so think about what they're doing on VNL and what we did with Louisville. There was, right when the rally ended, you had 15 seconds, and there was a timer, 15 seconds, and then the server would have the ball, and they would have 8 seconds to go. There's rallies that are taking way longer than that. There's those things add up over time when you're having 200 points possibly in a volleyball match, right?
Right.
Floor wipers. We've got to be, you're watching VNL or Olympic matches, and it's not just one kid that's going out there and ending up turning over a towel to a player. It is 2 grown-ups going out to the same wet spot, and they're in and out of there like they're at Wimbledon shagging a tennis ball.
Yeah, right.
So there's little things that we can kind of be doing that when over the course of 200 points that are just going to make, significant differences. And it's really important if we're wanting more of these matches to be on these big time channels that want to get in and get out of with our sport as fans do.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And do you think Fiserv could be a viable candidate for a Final Four? Milwaukee?
God, yes. I mean, it's we've been working really hard. First handful of years when we got here, trying to get a Final Four back to Madison, that became really important. And the city of Madison has been very, very invested, very, tremendous presentations. Part of the problem is where you play the Final Four and where you can hold your convention and hotels. Everything's really spread out in Madison. That makes it a little bit tougher, and so although Madison has not given up and they're still working on that, we have been trying to get Milwaukee in the mix, and Ryan Tice at Marquette has been certainly involved in that as well. And I have no idea why in the world Milwaukee's not been able to snag one. It's but we have had the NCAA committee at our Fiserv match with Marquette last year in attendance of watching that. They were in attendance this past week, and there's hopefully at some point the state of Wisconsin earns the right. I mean, we've had 2 Final Fours here in the state of Wisconsin in the past, and both of them set attendance records. I feel like the people here put on a pretty darn good show when given that opportunity. Hopefully we don't have to wait too much longer for another Final Four to get here.
Okay. I did put this out on X. If anybody had questions for Coach, do you want to go through some rapid fire?
Yeah, bring it.
Okay, Here we go. So you said you were pleased with the passing of the team. And Michael asks, what can be done about our back row passing? Because you seem to think the opposite, obviously, of Michael.
I'm just looking at the numbers. It's
right.
And they're just it's where, and I don't blame anybody. And when you're down there on the floor, there's matches that you're down on the floor, and there's other matches that you're up high, and just what is happening with some of these balls. You're doing nothing. How I would describe it with some of these serves is almost like a batter at a that is, in baseball, that's at the plate, and you've got 2 strikes, and this pitcher just throws something just absolutely filthy at you, and you're just fighting for your life to just foul it off. There's no way in the world you're going to get a hit off of this particular pitch. And man, what Stanford was throwing at us was the best serving I've ever seen. One of their things is they're going to have to get in at a higher percentage if they're going, in my opinion, to win the whole thing. They're giving away too many points as they did last year. But the serves that they're getting in are just, so many of them are just really, really filthy. What Kurt was throwing at us, and what their opposite, I'm drawing a blank on what her name was. What's that?
Jordan Harvey.
Yeah. I mean, those will be 2 of the top 4 or 5 servers we see all year long. And so I saw our players fighting and battling and trying to keep that up. I saw a couple balls that Trinity passed that were going out of bounds, that were sailing out of bounds. And and so what are we going to do about that? I don't know. She just never seen anything like this. And so you're going to help build her confidence and try to, you're reacting to a serve. You've got to make a decision on whether you're going to pass that serve in about a third of a second. And she's never had, her eyes haven't had to respond to that. On a slower ball, you can see her technique is really good, really sound. She's got very good platform. She'll put on some good balls with her hands. Her issue is the speed of play of some of the serves, and that's eye work, and that's just practice. And so I'm not overly concerned about that. Sarah's passing numbers are the best they've ever been. She's passing at a really, really high level, and Texas put almost every ball on her.
Yeah.
Lola's doing a really good job of passing the ball. Orzel's numbers are a little bit down, primarily because she hasn't practiced in 2 weeks. And but I'm not overly concerned about that. Sage is doing a good job. She's battling some really nasty 6 serves, and so I feel pretty good that, especially where we're at passing, we've been pretty good.
2 people, Joe and Fresh, were wondering about the Labero system and if you plan on sticking with that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. It's a question we're asking ourselves. I think information will certainly dictate what we do. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I mean, I don't. I mean, clearly you see UCLA men's team winning a national championship doing both. There's no reason not to have sorry, I'm distracted by an Olympian. Give me a call right now. What I've learned is it doesn't affect the flow. That's been the information we've gotten from those guys.
Okay.
And so I think the numbers or their teammates, when you're asking information from the people that are out there and you got people coming in and out, is that, what is that? And it's the players that are involved in it feel that's fine. It took the scrimmage to kind of get a feel for it. All of them would rather be out there 6 rotations than 3, right? I mean, or than half the time. But passing numbers and dig to convert numbers, serving out of system setting, and then coverage, those things, all those things that we've got information. As we start gathering that information, that'll kind of lead us to the direction we go.
Okay, a couple quick questions because either Lauren Carlini or Dana Redke is calling you. Joey had a couple of interesting questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get to everybody's questions today, but 2 of them. What is something with the lineup that you've wanted to try in a match but haven't been able to? That's his first question. So lineup, what's something you've always wanted to try that you haven't been able to? And then he asked another one. He goes, if you were to attempt to break the world record for attendance, where would you do it and who would you play? Like, obviously you'd have to go on the road to break that. His suggestions: Texas at Cowboy Stadium, Penn State in Happy Valley, Florida at the Swamp, or somewhere else.
Huh.
I already know my answer, what I would want to see, but
I don't know if we're talking about football stadiums right now, but there is some discussions about possibly going down south and doing something in maybe an NBA arena or something. I mean, and maybe doing a home and home with one of those southern schools that we might have already played. So there's some discussions about trying to get into some big, cool environments there. Football stadium, I don't know if we're doing that. I don't think it's conducive to good volleyball. It's a spectacle, and the spectacle's been done, and I'm happy that it was done. It was cool. Would have been cool if we were involved in something like that, but I don't know if you're going to be able to top that, and that's kind of the standard. And I don't think you'll see anybody really doing it at kind of that level. So I don't know. I'm always willing to listen, but I don't know. What do we want to do that I haven't done yet? I don't know. I'd like to get one of my outsides. I'd like to get all my outsides a little healthier right now, and that would certainly help. I'd like there would be maybe some specific blocking situations that maybe we'd be doing if that I can totally see us doing as we're moving forward.
Okay. Well, Coach Sheffield, thank you for another week at the Kelly Sheffield Show, and I'll see you as we get ready for the Big 10, Big 12 Challenge.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks for listening to the John Cast podcast. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, do all the things. Leave a review too. Reviews help as well. So thanks for listening to the podcast.